My end, it's saying that this content is being shared with a third party, but it's asking me to say okay. Are you guys getting that same?
Yeah.
I think it should just be the
because
YouTube.
Usually it
she's putting
says
it on
YouTube, but
YouTube.
this just said third party this time.
Yeah, I've never had to hit okay though before.
I have had to hit okay.
Okay.
I have, but I think sometimes YouTube is already started when I've gone on.
Right.
So you have to
Right.
agree at that stage of logging on. I don't know.
Yeah, now it's saying YouTube up in my upper right-hand corner.
Okay, I haven't gotten that yet. Oh, it says YouTube. It just, yeah, it has it like up in the menu.
Yeah. So I think it's being shared, Andrea.
Okay. It says it's live and recording on YouTube from my end. That's what I see.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have a notice in a corner on our computer screen that says YouTube.
Okay.
I think we're good. Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's 7:04 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Franklin Township Pro Committee meeting for January 8th. We're meeting in an unusual week this year, or this month, because we didn't want to meet on New Year's Day. I would like to make a motion for approval of the minutes from the December 4th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I don't see any members of the public here, and I don't think people can't communicate through YouTube, so I'm going to assume there's no public comment. So we'll start with old business.
Wait, you need to vote.
Vote for what?
You
Approval of the minutes.
Oh, for
approval of the minutes.
Okay. Anyone opposed?
Nope.
The minutes are approved. Thanks, Paul. Okay, moving on to old business. The sign language sign for the tot lot that Bob Magnus has been working on for a long time is done, completed. It's at the township office. It looks fabulous. And I think he's going to wait till the ground softens up some more towards spring to put the post in the ground that will hold it. And if you guys haven't seen it, I'll try to take a picture of it for anybody who hasn't seen it to post, or have maybe have Stacy post it on the website because it's great. I was hoping to have an update on the porta potty. My understanding, we don't have one yet, right? At Crossin?
I haven't been there lately. I don't know.
Anybody
seen it?
So
I have not.
So I will contact, yeah, I mean, last time I was there, it wasn't, but I will contact Dave or somebody and see when it actually might be delivered.
Yeah, like when I call for them, they bring them the next day. Like it's not a.
Right. Right.
I thought they agreed to pay for it personally or something. I don't know what.
They did. They did. That was my understanding. They paid for it as
So
members of the township, not in their capacity as supervisors.
it's very nice. So, well, if no one knows what the status is, but I don't know if we can talk now or later about Bob sent us an email saying he has a scout who wants to get started on the box to go around the porta potty. And I thought we should discuss that. Like,
yes,
that's on the agenda, Paul. Do you have the agenda?
That was my next note on the agenda there.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. The idea is that when the porta potty is not there, when the bathrooms are open during the warmer months, that there's an enclosure to go around it that can be used when the porta potty is not there for storing, garden tools or, so to build a structure that the doors can be closed around it. And that way, even if somebody's worried about someone getting in there after hours, like when the park gets closed, those doors could close around the porta potty and have an outside lock on it, some kind, padlock or something. But even if they're not closed while the porta potty is there, they could be closed and locked during the other months. So it can be used as storage. So we'll have two purposes.
Oh, that might be nice for the gardening club, like they could leave some equipment there. So it's something that would go all the way to the ground. Would it have like a cement or stone base? And they
Correct.
could leave equipment in there so that like if they're in the middle of working on something for the day.
Correct.
So where would it go?
I think the idea is to put it, I think over toward the healing garden is my understanding, but that's another thing I need clarification on. That's
So
why I was hoping that it would be delivered because they
Yeah,
sort
then
of
we
took us,
could
they sort of
see.
took us out of the loop on, having it done. So
But-
I was hopeful it would just go there and we would know where it was, but Dave is also interested in having an enclosure that can be used for other purposes. So the board will not have a problem with that. We just need to, I would like Bob to have the scout, if it's going to be a scout program, to talk to us. And, we put together some ideas before he puts a lot of time and effort into it. And then later goes to the board and they say, no, this is too much or too little or not what we had in mind.
Yeah, when Bob said he's going to have him get started, I didn't know what that meant, but I didn't think we should have anybody get started until we review the design and
Right.
board
I
approval.
think he probably just meant get started in terms of getting the scouts wheels in motion.
Right,
Um,
okay.
Because if he doesn't do that until the spring, then it's going to take till summer to get anything started.
And for location, I think we'd always talked about closer to the tot lot, closer to the fields.
Yes,
I guess Mike, I think
Yes.
Paul and I talked about this before. Our fear is if it's too close to the healing gardens, it'll be out of sight, out of mind. And the cameras also are more focused on like the tot lot area. Like if they're worried about vandalism,
Right.
like we would want it to possibly be in the line sight of the cameras.
I suggested just dropping it on the asphalt between the two planters, so it's protected from vehicles and it's protected from the wind. And it's right next to the bathrooms. So when someone comes to the bathrooms, it's locked, they see the porta potty right there.
Okay.
So if you go put it behind the hedges in the healing garden, I don't think anybody's saying that, but
And that may be exactly what
yeah,
they're planning. I will get that clarified. Dave has been,
because it's only there for 4 or 5 months. I thought that would be a great compromise, and then you just pull it out of there. But as far as putting a surround around it, I thought we should try to just do it without one for the first year and see how it goes, see if there's any vandalism or problems with it. That would be my suggestion because I think a
sort of
wooden structure.
envisioning it as something that would, when it's not being closed up for any purpose, it would, it would be three-sided. So you could see the porta potty clearly from one side. But, for anyone who had concerns about the unsightliness of having a porta potty there, which I don't agree with, because I think they all look very, they're all over the place. Everybody knows what porta potties look like.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not
all
like
over.
it's not like these are all banged up and gross and from a construction site or something, it'll be a nice, but
Well, I
Anyway.
thought it'd be worth just having it for a year to see how it goes before we build the structure because any wooden structure like that is only going to last 5 or 6 years and then it gets banged up and then it needs to be repaired or repainted or something. And I know you said keep tools in it, but unless it has a roof on it, I wouldn't store anything in there because it's most likely to get stolen. And we do have 2 empty rooms in the comfort station that are used for storage. And so the healing garden
Okay.
people can always get the combination lock to that and store their tools or equipment right there in that storage room. That's what they're built for. The
Mhm.
Little League uses one, but they hardly uses it at all anymore. I think they have some stuff in there. Last time I was in there was about 2 years ago. They had stuff in there and nobody at the Little League even knew the combination or had a key. So
Mhm.
the Little League changes coaches and volunteers every year, so that information never got passed on.
Mhm.
Maybe they know it now. I'm
Mhm.
not in the Little League anymore. So I would suggest to the board, and I know it's not our decision, but that we just go for a year without it and see how it goes before building another structure that needs more maintenance and upkeep. And then the whole storage thing, if we're storing stuff there during the summer and then what do you do when you want to put the porta potty in it? You have to store that stuff somewhere else anyway.
I think the idea is that during the colder months when the porta potty's there, people wouldn't need as
They don't need it.
regular access to
Yeah.
those tools.
Yeah,
So, for things that are used more often in the warmer months where they're just used,
Yeah, I mean, unless
daily
about
or
the
weekly basis.
storage, my concern is if they want to make it a permanent structure, it's going to be put in a spot that is not going to be as evident to the public.
yeah, yeah,
So, like,
right.
if they want to put it in a permanent structure, my fear is that it'll be someplace that, or what if we need to move it? What if that's not the best spot for it, or they feel like there's more need someplace else? So,
And you can't put it too far from the parking lot because the sucker truck has to be able to get to it every week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let them figure it out, but that's my suggestion, just a bare porta potty between the planters for the first year, right in front of the cameras, right next to the bathrooms. See how it goes.
Okay. Duly noted. And I will bring that up at the Board of Supervisors next week. I know Bob's not on here, but Paul, I know you and Bob both, that there were a number of trees downed at Crossan and Bamshire, and I'm not sure if anywhere else. But to your knowledge, has everything been cut and cleaned, and is there any further need?
Yeah. Bob wrote that he took care of that big oak that fell on the red trail. And I had done some previously. And Chris had done some on the Keene Trail, the one at each bridge on the Keene Trail.
Okay.
So yeah, please note that, because I think our volunteers at the Pro, we never give them credit for the work we do.
Right. Well, that's why I have that on here on the agenda to
Yeah,
update and to say thank yous to.
there's other groups that are very good about publicizing their volunteers, and we don't do a good job of that.
Right. Yeah. I'll see about getting that on the website too. What's Chris's last name?
Perkins, P-E-R, like Perkins,
Uh-huh.
P-E-R-K-I-N-S.
Gotcha. Got it. All right. And Bob's friend, I know it's a long name and it's in the email, I think. So we will say thank you to him too. Tim DiVincenza. So thank you to Chris and Tim for helping out with the trees. Now we are at we're back to the kiosk at Bamshire, Paul. Can we make a plan are there additional things that you need aside from the supplies you already have for that kiosk?
What I have does not have any plexiglass or glass enclosure, and so some do, some don't. So I guess that if the township wants to add plexiglass or a case, then they'd have to add that. But I'll provide just a blank board
Okay.
that we can staple things to or whatever. I mean, that's what we have there now, right? Right now we just have a plywood board with plexiglass screwed over it. It doesn't have like a hinge or a door or anything like that.
Do you have dimensions on that, or can you get them?
It's 4 foot by 6 foot.
That's the space. That's the open space for the plexiglass.
Yeah, but you can't buy one that big. I mean, that'd be too big.
Right, but
Right.
that's the workable area.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to cover the whole thing. I would imagine I had planned I thought we would cover half of it with a piece of plexiglass to protect our map, like the nice map Mary made of the trails.
Uh-huh.
And then we leave the other half open so people can post stuff and then the hunters can have their smaller map where they hang their tags, to say when they're hunting and stuff like that. So that would be on the other half.
Okay.
That was the thought when I built it.
What are you guys doing in here? Okay, and can we have some kind of time frame for installation so we can sort of organize people to help you and
I don't think we should talk about it till the spring. Like we're wasting our time in January and February, right?
no, I know, but we tend to, I'm not saying like, let's do this in February or March. I'm just saying
Yeah,
we tend to say, okay, we're gonna get to it, and then we don't get to it. And so
yeah,
I just,
agree.
what I would like to do this year with the projects that we have on is have sort of a timetable where we're all on the same page and we have an idea of what we might be doing each month.
Yeah.
At least each season, and, have more of a project management perspective.
Well, let's say after the snow melts and the leaves come out, so March or April.
All right, so we'll talk about it in the next couple meetings, and
I wouldn't even talk about it in
maybe,
February.
well, just to keep the idea there that we're doing it. And then how many volunteers or helpers do you think you might need?
I don't need anybody. I mean,
Mm,
I'm gonna use a tractor to set it up. It's better not to have a lot of people around.
Okay. The preserved farmland signs, Kyle has continued working on those, and I don't know if you all saw. I don't have a way to screen share, but she sent,
Do you want me to do that?
would you? She
I
sent,
can.
you probably have the version.
Andrea, just
I-
show the last one I sent you, like at 4:30.
Okay.
Did you copy everybody on that one?
No, I just
Oh,
sent it,
that just came to me. Okay,
right, you and
All right.
Andrea.
okay.
The one that says final farmland, Kyle.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you did send it to her. Okay, good. And I think it's beautiful.
I think it is beautiful. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I wanted to open it before I made you guys all dig through emails with me. Let's see here.
I did print it. I don't know if my camera doesn't seem to want to show that.
Here we are.
All right, here we go. All right. Let's see. I feel like she's gonna show up right here. All right, there we go.
That's great.
Yep,
I love it.
yep. Now, you all may have seen in the email I sent that the board does not want us in any way, shape, or form to approach any landowners who have preserved, that they are to be the only points of contact as far as advertising a sign like this or anything in any way. So if any of you have personal relationships with the people, you may want to talk to Dave or someone on the board about how and when.
I understand what you're saying, but I didn't see that. Did they send us an email or something?
Oh, no, I sent it. It was in my update. I sent one like 2 days ago, and then I sent another one recently because it was still in draft form, and I didn't finish it and send it until a little while ago. But
Okay.
but yeah, they wanted to make very clear that we don't have any further surprises, as they've been calling them. Because some of the people are very private and sensitive and have certain nuances that.
Well, that's
Let's-
fine.
don't know.
Just offer that, I was involved in the majority of preservations, and I'm willing to talk to the owners that I do know.
Yeah.
If they
I
want.
assumed, Paul, I
again-
thought you said that when you were going through this process with them, you discussed that or they had to agree to signage or something, or some of them did agree to signage. Is that correct?
So
You're not
I
supplementing.
requested that the Holmesy property, it's included in the easement language, so we have the right to put it on there.
Okay.
Of course, of course, would want to work with the owner and talk about, hey, we want to do this. And, just because we have a right doesn't mean you're mean about it. But
Sure.
I
Right.
did mention it to the new owners when they bought it and they were fine with it. That was 2 years ago or something. So
And how does that work, Paul, to differentiate the land from the easement? Because we want people to still be able to use the easement. So,
no, the farms that we're talking about,
like, this wouldn't be for the Homesy property, right?
this would be for the Homesy property. Yeah.
But what about how do we let people know that they can still use the easement? Because we're saying this is private, but the Homesy property, not the Homesy property, but there's an easement that there's a trail.
Right. So when the trail is built, you would sign the trail, say this
Okay.
is the trail. But just
So
like
we're
the
not there
Keene
yet.
farm.
There's no trail yet.
No, just like the Keene farm. I would put this on the Keene farm after we work with them and get permission. Or the township does, not me. And after we get permission, we put this on there, but it's separate from the trail. This is not. So Kyle, is this, yeah, this is the language we talked about, right?
Is this finalized? Because I thought the Board of Supervisors wanted the word private, like,
It says
larger.
right there, that's the first word, this private farm.
Right. I guess I was just under the impression Dave had wanted it to be like, say, preserved but private, like all in the same like size. That's why
I like this. I would say.
I do like it. I know that they were talking about at the one meeting that they wanted the word preserved and private.
But we have preserved at the first word and private is the first line. I would suggest we give it to them like this because no matter what we give them, they're going to want to change it.
I totally get that. Yeah.
So let's just send it on and
Yeah,
stop.
it will go to them for approval,
Altering. Yeah. Well, I know they're going to change.
prior to, and it getting sent for. being
And
made.
Heather, I have those 20 or so examples from other counties and towns. I can send you that file if that helps so they can see what other people have done. I mean, I've showed it at the meetings before.
Yeah, I think they've seen most of them, but yeah,
Yeah.
please, that would be helpful too. But I'm doing my due diligence, which is to put it out there that no one is to talk about these signs with homeowners without
Yeah,
board
that's
approval or
understood.
presence.
Yeah. I know we're not allowed to do anything. So, Andrea, you said, what do we have? So we have one agreement that gives us the right to put a sign up. All the other ones do not. So all
Okay.
the other ones would have to be a negotiation with the landowner to say, hey, we'd like to do this. And as you just said, Heather, we can't do that without the board. So I think it's a
How
good
many-
idea, and I think most landowners would agree to it.
How many are there total? Do we know exactly?
15 or something.
Okay. I know Mary made a neat map of preserved land, but I don't know if there was any designation for which of those were preserved with the township's involvement or which were, with land trusts or something.
Well, and could you make that point at the meeting is that the wording would have to change if the township or if the Department of Agriculture was not involved. But I think, and so Dave just wanted to put preserved farmland. I remember his comment was that that's just the two big words, nothing else. But I like the explanation. And if you have to change a word here or there, depending on the farm, I think that's fine.
Right.
I think it's important to give the additional information that it's private farm. And give credit to the people who worked on it.
Agreed.
All right. So I'd love to see you bring this to them next week and move it forward. That's great.
Okay.
And thanks, Kyle, for all the revisions and designing. And all.
Yes. Thanks
Patience.
for
Thank you, Kyle.
all that effort. All right, that moves us on to new business. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I have now assumed the responsibility of chairing our pro committee. and Bob Magnus continues as vice. We do have a vacancy for the 7th position on the board, on the committee. But the Board of Supervisors wants to wait until the May cycle for
Did they say why, Heather? Like, why would we leave a vacancy? I don't understand that.
his idea was just that if someone's appointed now, the cycle ends in May for appointments, and then this person is either going to be over the 5 years or under the 5 years if we stick to a 5-year position. In the same paragraph, however, this was a discussion, not written, but he mentioned that by 2027, they would like Pro to have the same cycle as all of the other committees, which is December, I believe, December or January. Like for Board of Supervisor elections and then appointments to the why am I blanking? The other committees that just that had
Okay.
just been advertised for open positions.
Heather,
Yes.
aren't some of our 3-year terms? I thought there were some that were 3 and some that were 5.
Yeah,
No,
mine was initially 3, and when I re-upped, they told me it was 3.
That's what I think. I was 3.
Okay.
No, you didn't re-up for 3, did you?
They said it would be the same term, so our
Yeah.
understanding was 3 and 3.
No, something's not right. So
I'll get some
So
Get
here's
clarification
the
on that.
idea is you always have a staggered term so that
So that
we all
everybody's
don't-
not leaving at the same time.
and
I
leaving at the
understand
same time. So when you first start the committee, because Jennifer, you were one of the original members, you are assigned a number of years so that you end not at the same time. But when you're re-upped, you should all be re-upped for whatever the maximum is, a 5-year term, I think.
right.
That
Yeah,
way,
and I don't disagree with that. I don't think that was our understanding. I think it was myself, Kyle, and Mary. We were all started with 3. When we re-upped, it was 3 again.
well, if you go through the math, there's going to be a time when we all would expire at the same time then, because we're all alternating years. That wouldn't make sense.
Oh, no, we would be done in 6. You would be done in 5 and 10.
No, but then eventually the cycles come together because
I
you're
won't be
doing
alive that long.
At 15, they'll
Yeah,
They'll
I
all
won't
be
be.
like
together.
15 years
Yeah.
out, but at 15, it would all be the same.
Yeah,
All
at
be the
15
same.
in 15 years. But if they put up with us for 15 years,
No, but it wouldn't be us. It would be whoever's on the committee at the time. All memberships would expire at the same time, and that doesn't make sense.
Right. All right. I will get some clarification on that too.
Okay.
and
Yeah, it
just
should
tell
be.
them I don't want to stay longer than 3 years.
It
Well,
should be that
so-
it's like all other committees. It's a set term. We
Yes.
just happen to be the starting group, and it was a little confusing, I think.
And was Eli too? I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if Dave wants to start them at the end of the calendar year, that's fine. I don't, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll wait till May. I mean, as I
Well,
mentioned,
that would be, March or April is probably when they would advertise it.
okay.
We've done in the past.
But that's where I was going to go. Like, we've always done some selection process or screening, I should say, and then propose some names to the board for a final decision. Do they
Yes.
want us to do that, or they want us to
They
stay
do.
away and we have
They
nothing to do?
do. I mean, I'm not saying they don't have their own ideas. I don't know. I got no indication, yes or no about that. But yes,
Okay.
they do want us to search for people and provide names, and
Okay.
the bigger pool we have to choose from, I think the better.
Okay, good.
Okay. Okay. There's been a lot of discussion about the Keene Trail.
Oh,
And
yeah. I did not get an update from Jeff today. I apologize. Did anybody get anything from him?
I will forward to you. He sent me an email with there's an audio. I haven't gotten to listen to it yet. there's an audio discussion about the legal situation and the status of the rights of the owners and who potentially could be affected. And
I don't know if
and Jeff also said that if anybody has questions about it, you know, whether it's members of the public, township, or those of us on the committee, that he is willing to talk to anybody about it at any time. So he will be the point of contact.
Well, let's just say then that the township is dealing with it. How's that?
Yes, and they are. It's, you know, it comes down to a dispute between two different surveys,
Right.
and
no, and I feel bad. I mean, the new owner who put the fence up was completely attacked on social media, but it sounds like she was well within her right to put the fence up and given time, but it just didn't work out. But again, the
well,
township's dealing with
I mean,
it.
she was aware. My understanding is that she was aware that there was a potential dispute on where that line is, but it was her decision to go ahead and progress, even though it was disputed at the time. And again,
Right.
that is her right, but it may also, you know, depending on how things go out legally, it might be that the fence has to change. It might not. So it will just, yeah.
All right.
I don't want to say that she did anything wrong. I mean, it's her property. She wanted to fence it, and she chose to use her survey line to fence it. And
And so the understanding is just the township's dealing with it, and you know, the pro has not, you know, no.
Right.
correct,
Yeah, let's keep going.
not the town. So, yes, and Jeff did say that he's hopeful that it might only be a few more weeks until we have an answer about the conflict between the surveys, at least. With the preservation group involved on the one side. Signs and activities to engage children more in the trails throughout our different parks and preserves. Excuse me, 1 second. Speaking of entertaining children. Dave had a suggestion. You know how in Banffshire there are the little trolls, gremlins, whatever the.
Is this the geocaching that he had talked about?
No, but that's another
Okay.
part. Paul, what are those little guys called that are
Gnomes.
gnomes? That's the word I'm looking for. There's a collection of gnomes, and every so often another gnome will appear in the group of them that are there. His idea was that, much like that we might help inspire people to leave some little, he called them Easter eggs. We don't mean actual Easter eggs, but you know, some type of item, whether it's a take something, leave something like geocaching idea, or whether it's a, you know, there are painted decorated rocks one place. And
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have a problem with the geocaching or the painted decorated rocks. My concern would be I could hear Greg right now saying, don't litter on the trails. Like there's like gnomes, and then there's like people start leaving like, you know, clutter.
Yeah,
There's a
that's
fine
true.
line.
That's true.
I'm sorry, what, Andrea?
I said it's a fine line, right?
Yeah.
There might be like something cute that, you know, somebody leaves, but if everyone starts leaving something, then you know,
Right.
a little bit of a problem on our hands.
Yeah, and I can see the painted rock being okay because it's not going to be plastic garbage wind up in the creek or anything like that. But I guess my
I
concern
want
would
to kind of brainstorm with you guys, you know, what are some
Yeah.
ideas, you know, ask, you know, let's ask our kids and, you know, see if any
So-
members of the public have any ideas or suggestions, or if there are things we've seen other places do, or, you know,
Did you say it was
Internet
Dave
search.
that Dave that brought
Yes.
this idea up, or Jeff?
Dave.
Dave.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. He thought, anything to get more people using the trails and kids more engaged in it. And, just to have like some neat little surprise every so often, or let's go see if something else was added to this, this week, or those kinds of things.
But I don't know about the public doing it. I mean, I think if some of the committees want to do it, if you get the public involved, you don't know what is going to be written on the rocks or painted on the rocks or where they're going to put the rocks.
I think we could certainly leave it to our discretion, people who are involved with the township to remove anything that is inappropriate or doesn't seem to fit with the theme. I'll discuss it more with the board and see.
So,
Yep.
One thing I thought of was educational. I always like the idea of labeling the trees and shrubs, with a name, like this is an oak tree, this is a maple tree.
Right.
Just some simple stuff to point out to kids as you're walking along, and not overboard. Just get one of each variety along a certain trail, like in Crossan Park or something. I don't know.
I mean,
And-
Dawn had mentioned something similar
Did she?
to that too,
Yeah.
like especially with the healing garden, to get kids in there more and kind of learn about, this might look like a weed, but it's really not a weed, and this is why it's so beneficial, and
Yeah.
and have maybe some scavenger hunt things where,
I would think there's like pre-made signs you can buy that are little stick in the ground ones that say maple and oak and
oh, there
Yeah.
are,
Walnut.
Well, also to your point, I mean, I know over at Bamshire, you pointed out to my kids where the beavers had been, chewing on
Yeah.
the trees, the sticks, and still every time we walk through there, my younger son points it out. He's like, I think that's a new one, and I'm like, I think the stick just broke, but maybe. And so, so even pointing out little things like that, I think that, for depending on the age range, right? Little things like that. I don't even know how you would necessarily mark that, but even if it was just kind of like on the sign you're making, the kiosk you're making,
you are here
right?
now.
Even if it's something like that, then that could, it could be nice for a kid to kind of, see and then go explore and look for it.
Right.
Dawn had mentioned like making a map for one of our fall festivals where you show things on the map they have to find, but I think it'd be hard to maintain, but it could be what you're saying is have a little paper map that says, or one they QR code that says beaver activity here and an old dam here and bridge here or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
Interesting points along the trail a kid might want to look for.
Mhm.
And then the second idea I had, and by the way, the tree labeling wasn't my idea. I don't remember whose idea it was, but that's been around for a while. The second idea was we have some historic points, and Mary had started doing some research into some of our preserves, did a great job on a few of them, like Crossan Park. In Bamshire, there's a few old historical sites, like there was a grist mill with a mill race and a dam, and I thought they have that over in New Garden on their trails. They have a little board that shows where their old mill was and their railroad trestle and all this other railroad stuff. And I thought that was something we could do to show where the historical features were.
They have that on their map, or they have signs at the locations?
No, they have a sign at the location on if you're at the Landenberg store and you cross the bridge, like as soon as you touch land on the other side, that's a trailhead, and you turn right and go downstream. They bought that property. It's a long, skinny property along the Wake Lake Creek, and there they'll see some signage. So it was some interesting little pointers, and then they have another trail a little further up Penn Green Road. I forget the name of their trail, but it's at Laurel Heights and Penn Green. There's another couple trail signs or historical signs there. So I like that they did that. They're ahead of us. So we could do that. There's a place in Bamshire for the things I just mentioned, and then the Goodwin Preserve is next to an old mill. But I don't know if that one would really be appropriate. Maybe we could just put that one on the board
Mhm.
with a little history fact. And Mary, I think that was Mary's idea, is to have a little history summary at the board for each of our preserves.
Mhm.
You know, like the Franklin Preserve used to be the Miller Farm. And maybe somebody could find a picture of it or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
So the idea is historical markers and points of interest or something. Maybe that's what I call
I like it. As I had discussed with the Banffshire kiosk, I already said this, but I think it'd be great to have some timelines for our projects this
it.
year.
So, but for all those I just said, I would not do anything. You know, I'd be afraid to move a muscle unless the board of supervisors says they like like that one, do that, or like that one.
I absolutely agree. But if we don't have it may be just as easy to have the time frame set for when we do go to the board, say things, this is what we sort of planned for, the second quarter, and this is sort of what we planned for third quarter. So, we'd like to have a, approval or whatever from you
Yeah.
at this point. So I know that I'm probably speaking more for myself than anybody else on the committee right now, but
So for the tree ones,
I need some sort of deadlines to kind of, aim toward, or nothing gets done.
if they like the tree labeling ideas, they would say, yeah, do one trail in each park or something, or do just one trail in one park, whatever they say.
Right.
Then we would just have to go online and find how much it is to buy them and then plant them. That's a pretty quick project.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming there's somebody who can identify the trees properly.
Right.
Not me.
I don't know if that's involved enough to be a scout project.
No, I don't think it is,
No,
but
they
maybe,
have to-
maybe.
I mean, do they have to, like, it has to be more building, or, I mean,
I
I
think it
don't know
does.
what the parameters are, but.
I
Okay.
think it has to be substantial. So that
Uh-huh.
might not be enough for them, but
Mhm.
Yeah,
that's a
last
good
time
idea.
I talked to one of the guys about it, they told me it can't be like purchasing and installing. It really has to be
Okay.
constructing.
Instructing, good.
Mhm.
But if it involves education, I think that if they do it, expand it through all the parks, I think I'm just speaking from family friends who she's actually a Boy Scout, but I guess now girls could be Boy Scouts too. She did like more of a widespread educational program. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be building anymore. That's my understanding.
Well, you could throw it on the list, Heather, and see if any
Yeah.
Boy Scout picks it up.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't know, have anybody ever been to Harvard Glen? It's like a huge park in Bel Air, and they have hundreds of trees. And you can go to the park office, and they have like laminated sheets, and you can go and mark them all off. But it's something, if they made it bigger, that maybe a Boy Scout could make it a bigger project.
So my point was, though, that project you could put a timeline on after approval and say, if you give us permission to do this, we could do this in 2 months, something like that. 1 month to find them and buy them, and 1 month to install them and identify the trees. But the history one, that could take years, where somebody has to do the research and find the history and write something up. And I don't know. Mary was really interested in that stuff, so I don't know if we have anybody who would want to do that, but I wouldn't put a timeline on that one. I would
Don't
get
we have-
approval first.
Don't we have the Historical Society? Isn't there a committee?
There is, yeah, the Harb, yeah.
Do they I mean, I know they're into the history of, structures and residential things. Would something like this fall under
Yeah,
their
they do. So there's two.
umbrella?
There's two committees, and I'm going to get the names wrong, so I'm sorry. One regulates historical structures in the village of Kimblesville, meaning if you want to add a structure or change a structure, they have to bless it and say, yes, it looks historically correct. That's one committee. And there's a separate historical committee that tries to educate people on the history of our township and do research and makes presentations and those things. So,
Okay.
that's-
Paul Lagasse is on both of those committees,
Paul is
Yes.
on both. That's
Yes.
right. And so he's
so
the
he'd
main
be a
one.
great point of contact.
Gotcha. And it certainly could be something we do in
So
with them.
I know it's not our property, but the Strawbridge property, whatever we call the new White Clay Elk Branch Park, that's so controversial. But Paul and Nan did some great research on the historical structures in there.
Hmm.
But I'm assuming we wouldn't be allowed to erect anything. You know, the state
Right.
would have to do that. But they did a
Right.
lot of research on it before the state kind of took it over.
I think that would be fascinating to hear about what they,
Yeah, I went with, Paul had old maps and we went out and found the structures in the woods where they were on the maps, but we didn't know where they were. And we went and hunted them down and found them and he wrote
Yeah,
all
some
that
of the
up.
stuff that's there on the corner of Walker and Mount Olivet, the old church.
Yeah, that's one, but that's not actually state property. That's a separate parcel.
No, that yeah, I know they're trying to get that piece. That's the last piece they're trying to get.
Hmm. But since it's a graveyard, you know, that's kind of a separate designation. Anyway, so that I'm just saying that would be an idea that I wouldn't put a timeline on the history research one, but just propose the idea we could do plaques in certain areas where it makes sense if we know the history or there's something interesting. And I don't mean one of those blue and silver bronze plaques. I'm talking about
something simple.
like a little simple laminated.
Yeah.
Like Andrea was proposing, we put a map at the playground there, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
That's all the ideas I have.
Okay. Bob had mentioned that the scout he was talking to, that part of, in addition to talking about an enclosure for the porta potty area, that something about trail markers. I don't know if he was talking about finishing more of what has already been started.
Yeah, I hope you're talking
Right.
about, yeah, finishing crossing. Yeah, I guess
Yeah, but
we'll
that's
see what he has
something
to
I
say.
would like to, figure out whether that,
we got to finish that up.
yes, exactly. So, I want that to be on our timeline radar too, to, finish.
Well, let's
do-
say if we don't have a Boy Scout that'll do it by May, then we just do it. Like we make that a volunteer thing, and we ask the township to buy the wood posts and the markers, and we'll go do it.
Okay.
That I like that idea because we do need
yeah.
to get this finished up.
Yes, I mean, because it's been started, the ball's rolling, and I think that all of the circle things are here.
Yeah.
I don't know number. We might need to go and have a day where we meet up and figure out how many more posts we need if we don't have them and that kind of thing.
Right.
And then the question of whether we're gonna install more of the "You Are Here" signs.
We do. Yeah, we do need to do some "You Are Here" maps. Yes.
For both Crossin and the preserve.
The idea was one at each parking lot and one at the bathrooms.
Okay, so we're looking at 3 total is our plan.
No, so one at the soccer field, one at the lower pavilion is already there, right? That's the new one.
Mhm.
So one at the soccer field, one at the middle parking lot, and then one by the dumpster because that's the trail entrance. And then one at the tot lot where the trail splits, the little one that we would put there where Andrea was talking about. I like that one. That's
Okay.
kind of the main intersection.
So 4.
Yeah, 4. I was counting.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just forgetting one of the parking lots.
For just a thought on Boy Scouts, whatever we do, Boy Scouts, I think we've had some recent experience where the Boy Scout wasn't very clear on exactly what they were building. Like we kept asking for, let's see a plan, and they showed us a plan. We're like, no, that doesn't look right. Make it a little taller, make it a little shorter. But then we never saw the adjusted plan. So then they went to the supervisors with what the thing that we did not like, and then what ended up out in the field eventually didn't work very well, and they made them replace part of it. I'm trying to be vague and not insult anybody, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, so my point is, any Boy Scout project, I think we need to see a final plan, and we need to see it and approve it before we let it go to the board, so that we don't have that happen again. Because I feel like that was kind of our fault, that we let it get past us and we didn't have that final drawing from the
I think
scout.
there were a lot of conceptual ideas and pictures, but we
Yeah.
never had kind of all of those pieces put together.
Right, right.
And
So
that's really where we fell short.
I think the scout felt it was just such a simple little thing that he was just going to go slap it together, but then it didn't work out in the end. So I'm thinking about this. If we do go forward with this outhouse surround, which I don't want, but if we do go forward, we really need to design on that, because you could think how badly that could go
Mhm.
if it's not a structure the board wants.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, the last thing I had on my list, is that in addition to our Wednesday meetings, first week of each month, the Board of Supervisors meetings are the third Wednesday usually. And we need to present our update to the board. I would like to ask whether you guys are willing to alternate that responsibility sometimes, so that it doesn't always end up being, whether it's me as chair or Bob or somebody else. I mean, Bob tends to have more conflicts with Wednesdays, so he can usually clear the Wednesday for our normally scheduled meeting, but has trouble with the board. So I'm just asking, and it does not have to be in person, but I will do, I'm planning to be there for next week, or at least be online to
Yeah, I mean, I have
present
no
everything
problem.
from tonight.
I have no problem taking a turn. I think though, I mean, we've talked to Dave about this before. We don't always also need to be there. Sometimes just a written report is enough, and we've done that before.
Okay,
Um, like for example, if this time, if I mean, I'm not discouraging you, you probably should go because it's your first time with the chair, but as a chair, but sometimes you could just give a report and just say, this is where we are, especially like in the winter months when not a lot of stuff is going on. You can just write up a report and say, this is when our next meeting is, this is what we've addressed. Um, so I guess I just wanted to, and I'm not trying to say you don't.
okay, I'll ask them about that, because I know
Well-
they always ask during the meeting, each of the committees to give an update. And in general, I've sort of only seen them say no update when literally nothing was discussed or changed, or there was no
Right.
meeting.
And it was my understanding, and this is, in past when I talked to Dave, that we don't also have to, I mean, and
That
we
is
don't also
absolutely-
have to have this monthly
We
meeting.
do not have to have. a monthly
Sometimes
meeting.
when there's just not a lot of going on, sometimes I feel like we just go through the list and where it's like Bam, Shire, Keene, porta potties, it's a lot of repeats, especially like when Paul's saying like, there's not really a lot we can do right now, with the weather, but it can kind of reflect those months too, that like, we're like, well, not a lot is going on. We're waiting to hear back about this, stuff like that.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly that if there's,
So
you know,
I agree we don't have to, but I do suggest we have someone show up whenever possible, because it's one of those, you stay in front of the board and we need to build a relationship with them, and out of sight, out of mind as they forget about us. And then, I think it's good that we're there, or dial in. I don't mean in person, but I mean, we have representation, and I'm happy to do it if you're unable to sometimes, Heather.
Great.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it as well.
thanks.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say that I wouldn't do it. I didn't want you to feel like, gosh, if there's really nothing like to add, like, but I see Paul's point about being present.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, even the hunters go there in the off season. Like, they like to have a presence. Now, they're not there every time, but they're there a lot to
Yes.
have a presence.
Agreed. Oh, speaking of which, Mary Hanley had mentioned to me that they were in Banffshire, I believe, and saw a deer stand.
Yeah, I was going to ask Bob about that, but he's not here. There's been a deer stand in Banffshire for about 6 years, and it's never moved. And the strap that goes around the tree is so tight, it's actually digging into the tree. So that gives you an idea how long it's been there. And this past fall, the tree broke right at the deer stand, right above the deer stand. So it looks like a dangerous situation. But I thought that hunters were supposed to remove the deer stands every time they used them.
Time, yes.
They are,
that's
that's part of
And-
the agreement, yeah.
But all the rules have been removed, so I don't know what's a rule and what isn't anymore. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I'm out of touch with it. So I thought that they had to remove them each time, but that
When
one's
I,
been there
when I
six.
when I met with Jim last summer, when we were going through, when there was a possibility of them adding
Yeah.
bow hunting to Crossin, he had explained that is absolutely one of the rules. And he says that is a deterrent to some of the older hunters, but that the stand has to go up and go down the same day.
Well, it's been there 6 years, and so I would love it if, I thought they were supposed to be policing for this illegal activities. I would love for them to remove it.
And them being the FSA.
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to go remove it, but
Mhm.
it's so political, I'm afraid to touch it.
Understood. Okay,
But if they say, yeah, go remove it, I'm happy to go remove it. It's
Okay.
clearly on Banffshire property,
Okay.
on the edge of on the northwest edge.
okay. I will ask Mary if that's what she saw or if it was something.
And
Nope.
and by the way, I saw a hunter in it maybe 4 weeks ago, and I wanted to ask Bob if he knew the person, but
In the 6-year-old stand?
yeah.
Ah, okay. So it's not like just completely abandoned. It's
I thought it was, but I
Right.
saw a hunter in it, yeah.
uh-huh,
And it
okay.
was in gun season because he was wearing the orange, yeah.
Okay.
That sounds
Okay.
like a disaster waiting to happen if it's that old.
Yeah, and hey, I'm to be clear, I don't know if that was an FSA member or not. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to ask Bob and then I forgot about it.
Yeah, well, I'd also, as the township, I would worry about liability.
Safety. Yeah, that's what I would be
Because
worried.
If it's been there for 6 years and we're all aware of it, and then somebody goes up there,
And gets hurt.
that's a sort of known nuisance situation.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of it and show you. It's
Mhm.
with the tree broken right above it. It looks very dangerous. Like I was surprised the person was up in it.
Okay. Well, I'll, as a group, ask Bob, he knows what's going on, and then I can bring it up next week. Okay, that is all I had. Anybody have any additional topics or anything that we haven't touched on? No, Poppy?
So one is last year we had a work day to every year you need to pick up the tubes that have fallen over in the winter and
Mhm.
get ready for the spring growing season so they have a chance to survive. And last year we did it like just a few weeks too late where the grass had already started to grow and it was tough to get in there. And I remember saying, man, we got to do it before spring next time. So
Right. Okay.
I don't know when that is. I would like to look up when ours was last time, but I have a feeling like we need to do it by mid-March. Like that would
Okay.
be any later than that, and I think things start to leaf out and grow, and then we're in trouble. So maybe early March would be my suggestion to go, and this could be huge. Like there's, I don't know, 1,000 tubes in Franklin, 300 in Crossin, 1,700 in Keene, and there's always the tubes over in Peacedale that they're not ours, but it's in our township, and that's a couple thousand. It's just endless. There's a lot of work but it really makes a difference. Like you really affect the survival rate when you stand the tubes up each year.
Mhm. Okay.
So Paul, I'm looking real quick through my meeting minutes. On the agenda in April, we mentioned that we wanted to do it, so it may not have happened. It might have happened in May. I'm just browsing through my meeting minutes real quick here.
Yeah, I bet I have a photograph. That's a good way to date it. You think it was May? But whatever it was too late. So, like we need to, I don't know when things start to leaf out, but having the tall grass around it makes it hard.
Right. I mean, it may vary if we have a longer winter this year. Okay. Just personally have a feeling we might. But if it's like recent years have been, then spring it'll come and go, but it can start in March and come and go until May.
Oh, no,
Right.
it was late. I just found it. We did it on June 15th.
It's too late.
That's way late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's have it on our horizon for early March. And if it turns out the ground's still not, I mean, I guess there's not really any too soon unless the ground's absolutely frozen, right? Which I don't think it would be.
No, right.
Yep.
Not anymore.
So, and it's probably not a 1-day thing either. So if we
Right.
plan for early March to start and have a few different dates
Yep.
on the schedule.
So what Mary had started last year was that we would establish a once a month work day, and we decide what it is, and maybe we just make it that, like make it the March work day,
Right.
do tubes.
I'm
Right.
trying to remember, was she trying to do the second Saturday of each month? Is that right?
I don't remember.
That sounds
I think
right.
it was, I think that's what it was.
Mhm.
Maybe it's on Facebook still.
Yeah.
And obviously that's something that we'll
So
have to have clearance on, and we'll have to, guess it's our responsibility to check the township's
conflicts.
schedule too, to make sure we're not scheduling that on the same day as something else where anybody
Yeah,
gets
and I
upset
would-
about conflicts.
maybe you could bring that up for the next meeting, that we would like to have a set work day during the growing season so
Mhm.
that, the volunteers can plan ahead for it, and that, like you're trying to get permission now to do that instead of,
Well, so they did approve it they approved it when Mary was chair. And so I think, if you present it, it should be presented as a
a
reminder.
reminder. Yeah.
As a reminder, this was discussed and approved back in the fall. And so, and we will continue it, once it warms up in the spring and our first kind of, do you think we can approach it that way or
And I'll ask that it's added to the township's calendar.
Yeah, I think it's great,
And then they can notify us if they have something come up that they plan to do so that we can adjust accordingly. But I'd like to put that responsibility on them if they decide to put something in the time slot that we
so
have.
there was a concern last year, Andrea, is that there was a shredding event and that our workday was conflicting with the shredding event, but I didn't think that's a conflict. Like
Yeah, we
there's
know.
enough people to. Neither event is so highly attended that one would affect the other. But that's just an example.
Agreed, but better to not present any
Right.
conflicts when avoidable. Okay, any other new topics? Anyone? All right. And as we have no members of the public, no public comment, our next meeting will be the normally scheduled first Wednesday of the month on February the 5th at 7 p.m. And with that, I make a motion that we adjourn for tonight.
Second.
Second, any
Yep.
opposed? All right,
Thanks,
Thank you,
Heather.
Heather.
all have a great
Bye.
night. Happy
Great
New
job.
Year to those of you I haven't said that to yet.
Take care.
Bye.